The head of a prestigious women's university here in Korea is the latest to be appointed as a Goodwill Ambassador of UN Women for her efforts to empower her female counterparts and to ensure gender equality. Welcome to Issues and Insiders. I'm Min Sun-hee. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Korea's Goodwill Ambassador of UN Women and her efforts to promote the welfare of her female counterparts here and elsewhere. I have Kim Eun Mee, who is also the head of Ewha Womans University here in Korea. Ambassador Kim, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Let's begin then with a few words about your feelings regarding your appointment as the Korean Goodwill Ambassador of UN Women.
Well, I feel very honored and feel a great sense of responsibility because I'm the first university president and academician to hold this position as representing Ewha Womans University, which is the first research university for women in the world. It was founded at the end of the 19th century for women and girls in Korea when education and medical service was not provided for women at all. So I feel a great sense of responsibility to make gender equality, empowerment of women, a mission for the whole world. So I hope I could carry this mission for the whole world. And second, this is the first Goodwill Ambassador from the Republic of Korea. I think Korea, when I was sitting at the UN in 2015 at the 70th anniversary of the establishment of the United Nations, I was reminded that Korea came from an extreme poverty when the United Nations was founded. In 2015, we had become an advanced industrialized democracy, but still technically in war. So we're really a country of inspiration and hope to many countries in the global South. So I hope as the Goodwill Ambassador from the Republic of Korea, I can carry this message of hope and resilience to other countries.
Yeah, I'm sure you can, Ambassador Kim. This next question might be slightly tricky, but what do you suppose led to your appointment as the UN Goodwill Ambassador representing Korea?
Well, maybe it's a question that you need to ask the UN Women.
I do.
But if I may say, maybe there are 4 areas that I could talk about. First is my research, and second is the service that I provided to the university. And third area is policy advising that I've done in South Korea and globally. And the final area is the official development assistance projects, the ODA projects that I have done in the Global South, especially in regards to girls' health issues and empowerment issues. First, in terms of my research, I started out as a sociologist and political economist working on third world development. I was looking at very macro issues like the developmental state, foreign capital, and local capital. When I returned back to Korea in, I think, 1997, as a senior scholar, I was asked to serve on many policy committees. But when I went to the committee, I was often the only token woman. And although I was not a gender specialist, I could not but think about gender issues. And I found myself championing the gender cause. And that led me to do more research on gender issues in development and development cooperation, which were my research fields. So that led me to do some research on whether in SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, gender was really advancing in the world. The second area is, as a professor at the university, I was very fortunate to work on scholarship programs to bring students from developing countries. As Ewha was was given a real gift from missionaries in the 19th century to start Ewha Womans University. At the 120th anniversary of Ewha, Ewha embarked on the Ewha Global Partnership Program to invite students from developing countries to study at Ewha, and I was part of developing that program, so I was very fortunate to work on that. We also started the Ewha Koika Master's and PhD program on gender and development. So we brought students, I think, over the years from 50-some developing countries, and that was a really, truly inspiring experience when you see these students transform not only their lives, but their families and their workplace after they have returned. I was also invited to work in policy areas for the Korean government, in the Committee on International Development Cooperation, for the Ministries of Foreign Affairs, Gender Equality and Family, but also in the Ministry of Defense. They wanted somebody to talk a little bit about foreign international issues and gender, so that was really refreshing to be able to be in that role. I worked with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Action with Women and Peace initiative that has been going on for 6 years, since 2018, and we focused on gender-based violence in conflict and wars, inspired by the Comfort Women issue from way back. But we wanted to lift that issue, make it a global agenda, because it's still ongoing tragedy. So we want to lift that as a global agenda. So we have two pillars. One is working on development cooperation projects in developing countries, and the second is international conference to raise this as a global issue. So we have had 5 international conferences, and I've been participating in that. And at the UN, I've worked on the Global Sustainable Development Report 2019. So I've done a lot of work. And through these, because I was publishing many of my research work and policy work in English, I was also able to engage much more globally than just in Korea. So I think all of these together led to the very honorable appointment as the Goodwill ambassador. Long answer to your question.
No, but it's a very adequate answer, I have to say. Ambassador Kim, going back then to the issues that women face in society today, what would you say are some of the broader common challenges faced by women and girls?
There still continues to be a lot of challenges. Ewha Womans University has done a lot on this topic in terms of research and outreach and education. There are reports that UN Women has shared with me, UNDESA and UN Women, their latest report shows that it will take 286 years to close the gender gaps in legal protection and remove discriminatory laws against women, 140 years for equal representation in positions of power, 40 years to achieve gender parity in national parliaments. So these are very alarming statistics after all this time that we have worked to improve gender equality around the world. At the United Nations, we had the Millennium Development Goals since the turn of the 21st century, and now with the Sustainable Development Goals, gender equality has been a very important goal in both of these global agendas. And it is sad that we have made good progress, but not enough. And with the pandemic that hit us since 2020, some of the progress that we had made thus far went backwards. The COVID-19 pandemic hit us in very important ways, not just in countries where we thought women took most of the burden of family care and care work, but throughout the world. Statistically, it showed that non-paid care work across the world increased more for women. Women suffered more in terms of job loss, pay loss. So women in poverty increased during the COVID period. So I'm really concerned. And we need to look at these from a gender lens very carefully. And the statistics are quite alarming. And so according to the UN Women, when we look at the statistics on extreme poverty, which is now measured at people living on less than $2.15 a day, at the current rate of progress, as many as 342 million women will still be living in poverty by 2030, which is the target year of the Sustainable Development Goals. This is more than 10% of the women in the world will be living in extreme poverty. So it's not just these poor women, but it's the whole world not being able to meet the Sustainable Development Goals. That we really need to pay attention and work on improving the lives of women, because the lives of women is not just their own lives, but their family's life, and the world must care.
Right, of course, it must. As you've mentioned, Ambassador Kim, you've made some significant contributions to the UN Sustainable Development Goals agenda. Could you tell us a bit more about your personal commitment to this agenda? Is there a personal reason behind this commitment?
As I told you, when I returned back to Korea in 1997, and I was asked to sit on policy committees and so on, although it wasn't my area of research, when I looked around the room, I could not but become a champion of gender issues. And in order for me to become a more knowledgeable person to speak with authority on the subject, and I started to do more research. And then I was able to speak with more confidence, because now I had the statistics and facts and analysis under my belt, so to speak. So with my research, I'm now able to speak with more confidence. And even at the UN, when I worked on the Global Sustainable Development Report, there were 15 of us from all around the world representing different countries, different academic disciplines. But of the 15, I think I was the only one who was raising the gender issue. So at the end, it was kind of serendipitous, but the group said, okay, Eun Mee, can you look at the gender issue here? Can you look at the gender equality issue? Are we sound on this? So I sort of became the internal gender champion, although I could never say that, oh, I'm the gender expert, but I had a very strong interest in gender, making sure that women and girls' issues were looked upon, and that we were acting upon the gender equity and gender equality issues throughout the SDGs.
Right. Ambassador Kim, despite Korea's advances in technology, artificial intelligence, and so forth, Korea has ranked bottom with regard to the Economist's glass ceiling index. Out of 29 OECD countries, we've ranked bottom for the past 11 years. What do you suppose can be done to perhaps boost this ranking?
As you pointed out, in the glass ceiling index released by The Economist on March 6, 2024, we're really ranking at the bottom of among the OECD's 29 countries. In addition, in the Davos Forum, or the World Economic Forum's 2023 Global Gender Gap Report, we are ranked below 100 in the whole world. So these are really, I'm very sorry to say, but pathetic figures, because Korea, in all the other indicators, we're never in below 100 mark. We're in the top 10 in most indicators. But the Korean public do not know this. They think we're doing very well across all the indicators. So I think the first thing is public awareness, that we need to let people know that in some pockets we still need some improvement. In the Davos forums or the World Economic Forums, the global gender gap, they look at empowerment figures, in particular women represented in parliament, the wage gap, and so on. They also represent some of these same figures. So we need to show that although we have reached gender parity in education, in higher education, women are on par with men, and that's not an issue. But when we go into employment, entry is fine, but whether they reach the top, pass through the glass ceiling, there is where the bottleneck is. Pay gap, that's where the bottleneck is. Women make about 60% of what men make, and that's what is really pulling down our ranking in the glass ceiling index and in the global gender gap ranking. Additionally, it's the empowerment and political participation that is also pulling down our ranking. Political representation, the parliament, is what they often take as a measurement, and that's an area where we really need more women to participate and to rise up to the top levels. These are some issues that we're really struggling in Korea, in South Korea. As we know, our birth rate is really, hitting a major drop and so on. And so these issues, I think, will see a significant improvement as we see more women empowered in positions of authority where they can make good and meaningful contributions.
Ambassador Kim.
Big issue.
Right, it is. It's a daunting task out there.
Yes, yes.
As you mentioned earlier, gender-based violence remains an appalling concern for women, of course.
Yes.
And it's still the case, of course, as we see global conflict in conflicts, that is, in places like Gaza as well as in Ukraine. What do you suggest, broadly speaking, perhaps, to better tackle gender-based violence?
According to UN Women, as you mentioned, 1 in 3 women have experienced physical or sexual violence with intimate partner violence, accounting for 33% of such cases, 1/3 of such cases. The situation in South Korea also is not very different. According to Korean Women's Hotline, indicating that domestic violence perpetrated by intimate partners exceeds 50%. These are very appalling statistics. The UN Women suggests that, first of all, statistics and facts about violence on women should be properly gathered and properly shared, disseminated. Second, that we must take proactive measures to protect and prevent violence against women, real measures, not just window dressing, but real measures to help protect women, but prevent violence against women. And third, that we all must take part in raising our voice on this issue, that it cannot be just shoved under the carpet and hidden. We must raise our voice to make this an important agenda in the National Assembly, in the public sphere. At Ewha, we were the first university in all of Asia to start a women's studies course and women's studies program at the master's and PhD level. And we have research centers focused on gender equality and women's issues, and we have a network with centers throughout Asia. So we have a wealth of research and experience. I hope our scholars and our colleagues will be able to assist in this manner. It's a very, very important topic.
Right. Ambassador Kim, perhaps you can end now with your plans of promoting female leaders to reign stages, not just here in Korea, then beyond Korea's borders.
With Ewha's programs that I mentioned to you earlier, the Ewha Global Partnership Program, the Ewha Koika program in our Graduate School of International Studies, last year I announced a more assertive globalization program for Ewha because we found out that although we have done a lot of international exchange programs and invited international students, our undergraduate student body is only 5% international. So we thought we should be more welcoming, inviting more international students to Ewha, enriching our student body. And I think it's going to go both ways. This will be a great opportunity for the current South Korean-based Ewha students to learn the global environment landscape before they graduate. So I want them to have an experience, a more global and dynamic and multicultural, diverse experience in Korea when they're studying at Ewha. So I think it's going to be a great experience for the current Korean-based Ewha students, as well as the international students who come to Ewha to have a rich experience learning about Korea's dynamic history and what we have to offer.
And Ambassador Kim, then, one question perhaps about your plans as a Goodwill Ambassador for UN Women this year.
Well, as UN Women, I was speaking at the International Women's Day this year at the invitation of UN Women's Center here. I said, you know, the fact that we have International Women's Day means that there's much work to be done to raise the voice for women and girls. And if there was the women's and girls issue was a esoteric, isolated issue in one country or one region, we won't have UN Women. The fact that we have UN Women is that women's issues, girls' issues are much more broad, common, general around the world. So I hope that I can raise awareness about the very common general challenges that women and girls face, like the fact that there is the glass ceiling issue, the 286 years to reach gender parity in terms of empowerment in parliament, in glass ceiling. These are very common general issues that women and girls face. So to raise awareness about the general and commonness of the plight of women and girls still in this day and age, and to see what we can do with some targeted strategic care and support that we need to give to women and girls. And finally, look at some best practices of empowering girls and women, how they were able to lift themselves out of the challenges they had. And I have many good examples from our country, South Korea, to share with them.
Right. All right, Ambassador Kim, thank you so much for your time today. And hopefully with your talk with us, you've raised greater awareness about the issues that we share with the rest of the women across the world and for the need for, as you said, tangible action to tackle some of our common challenges. Yes. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Right. Well, on that note, we end this edition of Issues and Insiders. Thank you for watching.